obviously like it's part, tools and technology, and the other part is culture. So how has your team managed the cultural shift of, knocking down the traditional silos for how they access data?
We may never be done. I can definitely tell you it's a marathon. I don't know where we are in the marathon, if it's a half marathon or if it's a 100-mile ultra. The finish line isn't quite in sight yet, but I also have to recognize and acknowledge that Grange itself has been changing to knock down silos across the enterprise. I'd mentioned that 2015 10-year plan that was established. What that is, and we're still on it, like I said, is that instead of 75 to 80% of our business being personal lines and 25% being commercial lines, we need it to be more balanced. We want it to be 50-50. So that's a pretty dramatic shift at the same time that we wanted to grow from about $1 billion to $2 billion in revenue over those 10 years. We're still on that path, but to do that, a shift that massive, that requires strategies across product development and innovation and agency distribution, the claims experience, customer experience, emerging tech, data and analytics, right? Things that modernize the whole enterprise and really started forcing us to take an enterprise collaborative view rather than a siloed view. So within that context, then, we're able to deliver more enterprise data provisioning. So my area runs the data warehouse, the business intelligence reporting, ad hoc analysis, and data science. We're set up to support the whole enterprise already, but a few years ago, we didn't have a lot of trust in the organization at all. The data warehouse broke a lot. We would maybe have 75% on-time delivery with our SLAs and then introduce defects that had to go back and be fixed. And so the last 3 years, we've been modernizing our systems. We've been changing our methodologies. We've been changing our process of intake to development and testing and release. And so now we're at 99% on-time delivery with far fewer defects. And I'm really happy to say that tomorrow we will officially have migrated from hardware, software appliance in our data center to fully to the cloud and the data warehouse. So we've gone completely cloud-based as of tomorrow when that migration is complete. So I would say that when you talk about silos, we had silos of distrust in the organization that we had to break down as well. And then in another area with business intelligence reporting, we had our report developers aligned to aspects of the business, which is great because they have the expertise. But when demands start coming in, you can also see those as bottlenecks. And so to be able to meet the client expectations, it was not occurring in all cases. So we cross-trained. People are now able to learn new aspects of the business, which is good for them, their interest in their career. But it also allows us to spread the work around and develop quicker. Another thing was that we had business analysts who were taking the requirements from the internal clients. That's a telephone game to where they hear something and then you get it to the developers and they may build something different. So we've started having the report developers do their own business requirements, and we're moving more agile and iterative. So you're touching base with those clients more frequently. And then the last thing we did was we started having all of the requesters, the managers of these business units, be together to prioritize together. So they see all the other requests. They can agree with an enterprise hat on what the priorities should be rather than having their own silo priority list. So by nature of strategies becoming more enterprise driven, creating this more democratized prioritization process, and then improving our own reliability and timeliness, we now have this more egalitarian kind of push-pull model that's less siloed and more enterprise.
That's awesome. And congrats on your go live tomorrow. That's a big deal.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So you kind of answered this a little bit in the previous question. So it might kind of have some of the same things to say, but knowing what you know now, how would you structure the data and analytics teams to best serve the needs of your constituents and the end users when faced with that quickly changing environment?
Well, so as I mentioned, we're a pretty recent team. And so when you're building up that team, you're kind of reacting to those changes and those needs, and you're building accordingly. So I'd say some of that was just organic, but recognizing the environment at the time of building appropriately. But still there was a lot of change over those 3 years to be able to do that. I mentioned the data warehouse over 3 years. We added an ad hoc insights team and a data science team within 2 years, the last two. And then in the last year, really to become more nimble, we added a rapid response team, is what we call it. And so I mentioned those business intelligence report developers. They would take their requests into a queue, and really it was basically first in, first out. And so no matter how urgent or how big it was, it got in the queue. And so we developed a rapid response team to take those quick hit needs, turn it around in a day or two, prototype what that delivery looks like. And if it's going to be repeated, we can now kick that over to that traditional production team to maintain it, monitor it, to build it, maintain, and monitor in perpetuity for them. So that's kind of an example of scaling to handle a quickly changing environment. But we're nowhere near done yet. I've got 4 other areas where I could see that we need to make some improvements. One is those same people who are getting asked for these quick hit projects or pieces of information, a lot of it is just metrics. So can you pull me whatever about this state? Well, that's there. It's in our current reporting. What the end users need is a little bit more self-service so that our analysts can be freed up to do more insights-driven work. We need to push that out to them, but not only does that require training and change management for them to embrace that, but we also have to have better reporting in general. We have to have a better data layer that's more intuitive. Currently, we've got hundreds of reports out there, and those reports are what I would call smart. Those reports have the metrics calculated and named in each one of them. So the consequence is that I may have 4 different reports with the same name of a metric, but they're calculated differently. So we want to remove the smart. We want to make those reports dumb. We want to put the smart part into a top to bottom, transactional, all the way to enterprise dashboard metric view data layer, where it's maintained a single version of the truth, one place with good governance, good data management, where the variables are defined, where you can see the calculations, the lineage, and everybody has access to that. Where it's calculated there, then the reports themselves are simply pulling the predefined measures, and you just need to be trained on what you're looking at. And with more information, you have more confidence, which gives the self-service a lot more capability to do things the right way. But again, it's still not as simple as that. We have to get all of our data stewards to work with the SMEs and the business and their leaders to agree on what all these metrics should be in the first place if we're calling a single version of the truth. So it's going to take many people and a long time to get us there. So that's just one of the 4 things, right? Speaking of the single version of the truth, with another one is we just have to do a better job of getting our data to be quality. Right now, we react to issues with the resources we have. I think we need a small team, who are proactively going out there and addressing data quality and monitoring for data quality over time. Another gap is something that I've started calling the last mile problem. And this in particular pertains to data science. You think of the last mile of getting something from a factory or a hub out to a house or a business. Bridging that last mile. Well, in our data science team, we've got a factory of people who can build some really sophisticated products and packages. At the house or the business, we've got these internal clients who are running their business and have need for some of the things that the factory could build. But the factory doesn't know what to build, and the business doesn't know what to order because it's new, it's technical, and they've been doing things the same way always. So why necessarily change? So in a way, you almost need like a sales force that goes door to door and says, what are the issues? How can I help you? So they've got an easier menu of things and a button to click, and then it's delivered. The package is delivered to them. I think Google has started something like this called a translator role, to where they can work with the business frequently and consistently, and the data science team. So both are still doing their jobs, but the translator, though, I think Google has said is one of the hardest ones to hire, because you got to have somebody who's familiar with data science, data engineering, strategy, and business, owning a business, running a business, all rolled into one. And then finally, one of the other gaps we've got is data governance. We have an enterprise data council. We have a steward council that works with that enterprise data council. We follow the DAMA dimensions, these 10 different dimensions of data governance. The way we've been approaching over the last few years was, we have governance things that we can do. Let's go find something to do, as opposed to now we're making the pivot of, what are the absolute biggest problems that working with the business, again, being that translator, working with the business, what are the biggest problems that you're seeing, and how can we apply the data governance and management principles to benefit you most through enhanced governance? It's a shift in the way that we're looking at things to try to deliver the most value to our end user constituents.